The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Zeftar's four arms gestured dismissively at the human delegation. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the artificial lighting as he spoke in his species' clicking language, which the translators rendered into cold, mechanical words. "Humans are soft creatures," the Krillian general declared, his mandibles clicking in what passed for laughter among his kind. "They hide behind their metal ships and energy shields. When the Void Swarm breached our outer defenses, where were the brave humans, cowering in their safe colonies while real warriors bled and died?" General Vorthak of the Taurian Empire nodded his massive bull-like head in agreement. "We have lost 3 star systems to the swarm. Our fleets are decimated, yet Earth sends only supplies and tactical support. They speak of peace while the galaxy burns." Ambassador Chen maintained her diplomatic composure, though her knuckles whitened as she gripped the podium. "The Terran Federation has contributed significant resources." "Resources!" Zeftar's voice rose to a shriek that made several species wince. "We need warriors, not your pathetic machines. Your people are too weak, too emotional to face the swarm in true combat. You are cowards masquerading as civilized beings." The accusation hung in the recycled air like a toxic cloud. Every species in the chamber knew humanity's reputation. The newcomers who preferred negotiation to annihilation, who valued individual lives over strategic victories. They were effective administrators, brilliant engineers, but when steel met steel, they seemed to falter. Ambassador Chen straightened, a cold smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Very well. You want warriors? You shall have them." She tapped her communicator with deliberate precision. "Control, please inform the Prometheus that we're authorizing deployment of assets 7 and 13. The bridge of the stealth ship Prometheus hung in the darkness between stars, its hull black as the void itself." Captain Morrison received the transmission with grim satisfaction. He'd been waiting for this moment since the first refugee ships had limped back from the frontier, their hulls scarred by swarm bioweapons. "James, Liza, you're up," he announced to the ship's most unusual passengers. James looked up from the knife he'd been methodically sharpening, his gray eyes reflecting. No emotion. Tall and lean, he moved with the fluid economy of a predator. Scars traced silver lines across his hands and face, each one a story he'd never tell. His uniform bore no rank insignia, only a small black patch with a simple symbol, a figure in shadow. Beside him, Liza stretched like a cat, her auburn hair catching the dim light. Shorter than James, but no less dangerous, she radiated a casual lethality that made even seasoned Marines nervous. Her patch bore a different symbol, a witch's hut with chicken legs, rendered in dark thread against darker fabric. "Target?" Liza asked, her voice carrying a slight accent that suggested Eastern European ancestry. "Kepler 442c. The swarm has established a hive complex on the primary continent. Intel suggests it's their main breeding facility for this sector." Morrison's expression was grim. "Zeftar's people tried a frontal assault, lost 60,000 troops in the first wave." James stood, sliding his knife into its sheath with practiced ease. "Extraction?" "None planned. You're going in dark. No support, no backup, no cavalry coming over the hill. Just you two and whatever you can carry." Liza grinned, and the expression transformed her face into something terrifying. "My favorite kind of mission." 6 hours later, a small unmarked shuttle dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler 442c. The planet's surface crawled with swarm activity, massive organic structures that pulsed with bioluminescent light, spawning pools that birthed new horrors. Every hour, and millions upon millions of warrior drones that had turned a once green world into a nightmare landscape. The shuttle's stealth systems kept it hidden as it descended through the atmosphere, but everyone knew stealth only worked until you started killing things. After that, subtlety became a luxury. James and Liza checked their equipment one final time. No fancy energy weapons or power armor, just knives, explosives, and small-caliber firearms that wouldn't attract attention until it was too late. They were ghosts, shadows, the monsters that even monsters feared in the dark. "Remember," James said quietly as they prepared to drop. "We're not here to win a war. We're here to send a message." Liza nodded, her eyes already taking on the flat, empty look that her targets would see in their final moments. "What message would that be?" "That humans might prefer peace," James replied, stepping toward the shuttle's open bay. "But we're very, very good at war." The drop was silent. Two figures fell through the alien night like falling stars, landing in the heart of the swarm's domain with barely a whisper. Within minutes, the real horror began. It started with sentries simply disappearing. Then communication. Nodes went dark. Breeding chambers erupted in flames that burned with an intensity that made the very air scream. The swarm's collective intelligence tried to comprehend what was happening. But how do you track shadows? How do you fight enemies who turn your own hive against you? James moved through the complex like death incarnate, his blade finding the weak points in chitin armor, his explosives placed with surgical precision. He was the boogeyman made flesh, the thing that lurked in the dark spaces between thoughts. Liza was chaos given form, turning the swarm's own bioweapons against them, poisoning their spawning pools and leaving behind a trail of destruction that defied understanding. She was Baba Yaga, the witch who devoured the wicked. And tonight, the entire planet was wicked. For 72 hours, Kepler 442c burned. The swarm threw everything at the intruders, millions of drones, aerial hunters, even the massive queen forms that rarely left their deepest chambers. Nothing worked. The two humans moved like ghosts through the carnage, always one step ahead, always striking where they were least expected. On the third day, silence fell over the planet. The Galactic Council received the report in stunned silence. A world that had taken 3 months to fully infest, that had cost the Allied fleet 60,000 lives just to scout, had been rendered uninhabitable to the swarm in less than a week. By 2 humans. 2. Admiral Zeftar stared at the tactical display, his mandibles working soundlessly. General Vorthak's massive hands trembled as he reviewed the casualty estimates, not human casualties but swarm losses. The numbers were staggering. Ambassador Chen stood once again at the podium, her expression serene. "Gentlemen, you asked for warriors. You received them. I trust this resolves any questions about human resolve." In the silence that followed, a new understanding settled over the Galactic Council. Humans weren't cowards. They were something far worse. They were humans, and when roused to war, they didn't just fight. They became legend.